Welcome to Larry's Library. This week I read iZombie, the Omnibus. Now this is yet another book that was gifted to me from my daughter Kristen, also known as the Comic Slayer. Check out her channel at the link below. So this one is on DC's Black Label, and it's, 672 pages. Although to look at it, and you'll see in the B-roll when I roll that, it looks a lot thicker than 672. To me, it looks like an 800 to 1,000, but I am used to looking at Marvel omnibuses, which have somewhat thin paper these days. Now, this is a first printing, the volume that Kristen gifted me. So I don't know if the 2023 edition, which is what's available now, has this grade of paper, but it is some really nice thick paper. It's not overly glossy. I would say it's sort of a matte finish almost. Maybe not matte, but it's definitely a semi-gloss rather than a full gloss, which I appreciate that a lot. So this has an MSRP. The current edition of it is $125. But again, don't be a chump. Get it from a nice online retailer, heavy discounter. And I recommend InStockTrades.com normally, but I could not find any stock at this time, the time of shooting. But Cheap Graphic Novels does have it as the time I'm shooting this, and it is $62.50. So that's a hell of a good deal. So this one is written by Chris Roberson, and the art is by the phenomenal Michael Allred. Mostly. I say mostly because there's 3 to 4 fill-in issues, I guess you'd call them, where there are some other artists come in. I think mostly indie artists, so that might be something that a lot of you like a lot. I wasn't in love with most of it, I gotta be honest, but I did appreciate the Jim Rugg issue. I am a big Jim Rugg fan. And yeah, I thought he did great in his issue of iZombie. So take a look at my notes here. This one collects the entire 28-issue run of the iZombie series. These came out under the Vertigo label in between 2010 and 2012. And it wrapped up, like I said, after 28 issues. And it also includes the 2 specials, House of Mystery, Halloween Annual 1 and 2, which has iZombie content. So that is collected here. So basically, you're going to get all of the iZombie material in one nice volume. So I was really reluctant to read this in the beginning. You know, when it came out, there was a lot of people reviewing it. Among them, my daughter and the Comic Slayer, and I think Jess, the Omni Dog. There was a number of people reviewing this, so I'm definitely late to this party. But there was a couple reasons I really wasn't too interested in it when it first, when it first kind of made a splash. I wasn't a fan of Mike Allred's art. I know it's crazy, right? But I wasn't. The only exposure I had really had to it originally was Ecstatics, when the Peter Milligan and Allred run of Ecstatics. I was still collecting singles at that time, and I just I never really gave it much of a chance. I seen some pages from it, and I was just like, that art is just not for me. I'm not gonna get that, and I just never gave it a chance, never picked it up. Now I did pick up the Wolverine and Dupe miniseries, and I think Allred did the art in that if I remember right, and I liked it. But because at that time I was buying everything Wolverine pretty much. I was reading all the minis, and I was collecting all. I was trying to get all the appearances and everything. I did a pretty good job. I had an unbelievable Wolverine collection at that time. But then finally I started seeing some art. I guess this is a number of years later. I started seeing some art from the Dan Slott, Mike Allred Silver Surfer run. And I gave it more of a chance, and man, I really liked it. And Chris ended up gifting that to me too for one year for Christmas, the omnibus of the Dan Slott Allred Silver Surfer. And man, I loved that. Man, it just really, really got me good. I thought it was just fantastic. Now, I said there was a couple reasons I wasn't really, psyched to read iZombie. One being I wasn't convinced of his art at one time, like an idiot. And the other part was because I wasn't keen on the idea of a zombie character being the lead, being the hero or even the protagonist of any kind. I think it's because I grew up, I quite literally grew up on the George Romero zombie films. I've been a fan of them since I'm a little kid, and my whole life really. I've loved all the Romero zombie movies. And I'm also a fan of The Walking Dead, both the TV series and the comic books. I really, really love that stuff. But I never really liked the fast zombies, and I never liked the intelligent zombies, with only one exception, really. And that would be when George Romero did it. I think it was Day of the Dead. I did not look this up, and I don't have it in my notes, so I'm going off memory, which could be failing, but and it was where, I think it was Day of the Dead, where there were some scientists underground, and in this facility underground, and they were experimenting with the undead, trying to figure out, what makes them tick, and, if they could be rehabilitated, if they could be taught things. And he had one character, he had one zombie in this cage, and he had been working with him a long time. The character's name was Bub. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So hopefully I got the right film. I think it's Day of the Dead. But Bub was a Romero zombie. And Bub, in that movie, a little spoiler for that film if you haven't seen it, he ends up actually shooting a handgun. It's quite spectacular moment. Really well done. And I did enjoy that. But that is about the extent of it, where I would accept a quote-unquote hero zombie. So I was not convinced that someone could pull that off. For someone that's quite comfortable with the idea, of the Night of the Living Dead and that sort of zombie. But this year, like I said, last year, 2023, Kristen did gift this to me for Christmas. And so I went in fairly blind. I mean, I knew there was a TV show loosely based on it. And I was reluctant to watch it for similar reasons, even though it is a Rob Thomas show, which I'm a huge fan of Veronica Mars. So, I'm sure I'm probably going to love that TV show. And of course, now I do want to see it. So anyway, I went into this fairly blind, not knowing how, they were going to resolve these issues I have with the idea of both a fast and intelligent zombie and a hero zombie, for that matter. But I got to say, man, I read this thing and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. There is so much great world building done here and character building. And more importantly for me, as someone, watching zombie media and reading zombie media for, 40 plus years, practically, that's probably about right, they had to do some serious convincing to show me how this would work. And I got to say, Chris Roberson delivered on that front, because he convinced me with the lore. I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically, within the world of this book, every human, and even some non-humans, some lower animal life forms like dogs and cats, have two souls, an oversoul and an undersoul. And this is explained very nicely in the book, very convincingly. And this, I'm not going to go into the details, but basically one of the souls is like your passions and your emotions. And the other soul, I think the oversoul, is more your intellect and your conscious mind and your memories. And so, like, I think the typical zombies that I'm used to, the Romero-style zombies, have an undersoul but no oversoul. Hopefully I don't have those two swapped, but I think that's it, if I remember right. I finished reading it not too long, it was yesterday, I think. So he not only explains the different types of zombies, he also explains mummies. He explains werewolves and related were creatures like were-terriers, who's one of the main characters is a were-terrier. If you haven't read this, yeah, it's crazy, it's fun, it's awesome. But anyway, yeah, so he explains all of that. And he actually explains how life works, how consciousness works to a degree. And all this is worked in beautifully, weaved into the story, and just pulls you along, and you just want more and more. Now, this would be a 10 out of 10 for me. There's only a few very relatively minor things that cost you an entire point on my 10-star scale. And one would be, I think it has kind of an abrupt beginning with very little information given to you. You're just kind of thrown in there. Now, some people like that kind of storytelling, but I don't prefer it. And I thought it got off very abruptly, and it took more than I think it should have before it started filling in some info for me. Minor thing, very minor. But once it got going, once I got about, 2-3 issues into it, I was hooked for sure. I was like, wow, this is awesome. Why did I wait so long? Why did I not want to read this, And then the other thing would be the fill-in artists. I wasn't really jazzed by most of that. Kind of took me out of it a little bit. the more heavily cartoony stuff, I didn't think really fit here as well. For me, I know it's very subjective, but for me, it did not. But I did love the Jim Rugg issue. That was awesome. And we do have consistent writing, so that's a plus. Roberson writes all of it, all the way through. And I thought the ending, while satisfying, and certainly an ending, a very cataclysmic ending, you might say, but satisfactory. It was definitely abrupt, and it felt a little rushed. And I think it was. I think that's kind of when DC pulled the plug on this, and before they really got everything in they wanted to get. So I think it probably felt rushed because it was a little rushed. I think if this is 672 pages, if this had about 150 more pages, I think we could have got a more satisfying ending. While it is satisfying, I think we would have got more detail, and I would have liked to have more info about what happened to all the characters. I mean, they do cover that, but they cover it in just a few pages, and I felt like some of those characters, you like them so much, you love them, you might say, by the end of this thing, that you kind of wanted to know more. I mean, the Gavin character, Gavin and Scott, I wanted to see more about how they worked out, although we got a good ending, so we got a little information there, but I would have liked to have more. And that's the thing about this, it does leave you wanting more. So I think if you added about 150 pages to this, maybe 100 at the end, and about 50 at the beginning, this would be a 10 out of 10, even with a couple of fill-in artists. I probably still would have squeaked it by with a 10. But these are very minor quibbles in an otherwise spectacular comic book, an experience that you want to have. If you haven't read iZombie, you really, really want to. You really need to, because it's that good. Yeah, I think it was nominated for an Eisner. I don't think it won any, but it was nominated for at least one. Should have won, maybe. But yeah, I really, really love this. I grew to love these characters and these concepts and the awesome world building, and especially the lore building and the explanatory lore that is in this, that just explains all manner of supernatural things that have been in popular media forever. And here we got a nice, very neat and tidy explanation of how it all works. And it just makes sense within its own universe, within its own book. And yeah, I loved it. Loved it a lot. In some ways, it reminds me a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series, the TV series. But not overtly. It's not a copy or anything, but it has that same sort of vibe in places, and same sort of relationships with the characters and things that they have with each other. Yeah, it's good stuff. It really is. So now I want to see the TV show. And I'm probably going to be let down because I know they didn't follow these plots very closely, or even the characters. I think they even changed the main character's name. But I still want to see it. I mean, it's Rob Thomas, so, surely it'll be good. But this is great, and that's the subject of this one. So this is 9 out of 10 for me. Another great choice from my daughter, Kristen. Sometimes she may know my taste better than I know it myself. Yep, I said it. She'll never let me hear the end of that. Someone will probably clip that and give that to her as a gift. I don't know. But that's, got to tell the truth. This channel is about nothing else except my opinions and my truth, and I'm going to be honest with you. So, Kristen, you were right once again. But yeah, I love this, and I hope you like taking a look at this great art. Mike Allred. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't take to his art earlier. Now I think I want to get Ecstatics maybe. I don't know, maybe I need to give it a second shot, because I am a Mike Allred fan for sure at this point. So yeah, hope you like taking a look at this. If you haven't subscribed by now, please do that. It helps the channel out, helps me keep going with all this. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.